So why did Jrue Holiday's name come up? Zach Lowe on the Low Post, which is the name of his podcast. Listen to this about the Warriors and Klay Thompson both taking note of Jrue Holiday's extension.
I think different people in that organization, just as would be the case with any organization, any big organization, there's a lot of thinkers there, have different levels of sentimental attachment to Klay, who's a free agent, and Draymond, who has had a volatile last 24 months. Klay's going to draw interest around the league. He's going to want a fair salary. I can tell you for sure both sides took note of that Jrue Holiday extension with the Celtics, 4 years, $135 million.
Okay, 4 years and $135 million. What's the math?
That would be 33, 34.
That's right, 33.75.
Yeah.
Okay, 33.75.
Oh, baby.
They took note of that extension, meaning Klay took note and went, and the Warriors took note and went, So how does that translate to the situation the Warriors are facing? With each passing day right now, and this is not sourced at all, this is not from a conversation, okay? This is from listening to everybody for the last 48 hours, understanding the situation financially a little bit better. Bobby Marks on our show yesterday was really helpful. Understanding everything where it sits. And then also reading these tea leaves that everyone I listen to seems to think that Klay Thompson is not incentivized to just be a Warrior. I just want to be a Warrior. That's not apparently where his head is. And I think when you combine his dad and himself, his dad on this show and Klay at the podium at Chase Center, both saying within the last 2 weeks, we haven't even thought about free agency. Hadn't even crossed our mind. And if it had, we wouldn't talk to each other about it. I barely even know that man. Who is that man using my last name? Get rid of him. All of that, to me, speaks to the same thing, which is, as Zach Lowe just said, Klay is going to demand a fair salary. And if he thinks that he is just Jrue Holiday light, and Bobby Marks said this is still very much a $25 to $30 million a year player, and there will be offers around the league, the more I hear, I feel like right now every day, in my brain, the likelihood of Klay not being a Warrior goes up.
Right. Because if the market is like that for Jrue Holiday, which Klay is not Jrue Holiday anymore. He used to be Jrue Holiday before Jrue was Jrue. And Klay is maybe, 20% lower on the valuation as Jrue Holiday. Well, you take off $7 million from what Drew's getting, which is almost 34, and that puts Klay at 27, which is right about where Bobby Marks was saying that Klay would be 25 to 30. And I don't think that the Warriors want to pay him between 25 and 30 a year to come back and be, like you were saying, you need Klay to be your fifth best player. Maybe he's your sixth man. Maybe he's your seventh man. If he's your starting two again, you're probably the same kind of team you were this year.
Remember the call yesterday that was like, why doesn't Steph Curry just take half his salary?
Right.
Which, of course, he can't do for the next 2 years because he's already under contract. But I do think in the end, the rub right now for the big three and for the future of the Warriors organization in the near term is this. And it's that you're looking at these guys, quite frankly, all three of them, but two of them are already signed. You're looking at these three guys, all three of them are saying the same thing. We badly want to win, and we think we still can. Okay, so there's your premise. You want to win, and you think you still can. The Warriors are going to come back and say, there's literally no way for us to win if we just pay you what you want to be paid. We can't be good. So we'll pay you. It's almost like, dude, you pick.
Yeah.
You pick your answer. You can take the money or you can allow us to try to be good. The problem is the player will rightfully look right back at ownership and say, yes, you can pay me what I want and be good. It's just a matter of who's going to take the haircut, me or you. And the employee is going to sit there and go, why should I take the haircut? I'm one man.
Right.
And you're a multi-billion-dollar organization.
The organization that paid you $68 million when you were in a hospital.
All true, but you heard what he said the other day. He is not as whimsical about that as we thought he was.
Yeah.
He was not as thankful about that as we thought he was. The whole idea of, wow, the Warriors paid me when I was in the hospital, that's amazing. Well, 2 days ago, he changed that and went, can you imagine them not paying me?
Exactly.
We had just gone to the finals 5 straight years. Of course they paid me.
Right.
That's very different.
You got the max. You tore your ACL, you got the max, and then you blew out your Achilles underneath the max. And the team never said a word about it. They paid you $68 million because they had to. You were under contract, and that's the way that went. And if I'm the team and I'm looking at the history of this player and this contract and where he is now, I'm thinking, all right, it might be time for you to make good. Not that he owes them. He doesn't owe them a thing. But if I'm Joe Lacob and I'm thinking about bringing him back or not bringing him back, I'm not going to say, oh, you know what, Klay, we're going to give you $30 million a year because, darn it, you've been great and we need you. And I'm going to go back in the luxury tax because I want to make sure that you're still here. I don't think that they're going to do that. I don't see that.
Yeah. I mean, the number I hear fans throw around a lot is 20. I'd pay Klay 20. You're not going to get Klay for 20.
No.
Like that is one decision. I shouldn't call it a decision. That is one opinion at which I have arrived. That is not going to get it done. And I mean that for 2 reasons. A, I think there will be offers at least 25. And B, if that is the final analysis, offers between 25 to 30 elsewhere and 20 from the Warriors, yes, I believe he'll leave.
Yeah, I mean, 25 to 20 is a big deal. And I wonder if years isn't more of the factor. Because the Warriors might offer 25 for 2 years. And another team might offer 25 for 3 years. And at that point, if you're Klay, you'll probably take 3 and 75 elsewhere as opposed to 2 and 50 here.
I don't know about that. You know what I mean? And I know that he will, and this is not fair, but he will take criticism. Even when you said 20 to 25 is a lot, well, you're not wrong. That's 25% more. That's a lot of money, especially if it's over 2 to 3 years.
Right.
You're talking about, fans will sit here and be like, wow, it's only $15 million. You've made $250 million in your career.
Right.
And I know that rich people don't look at it that way. They're like, yeah, that's $15 million. And maybe more importantly, it is a respect thing that we know Klay, is this the right word, struggles with. It matters to him.
Right.
So I don't want to call it a weakness. That matters to him, and that's fair. Like, you get to decide what your value is and what you want to demand. But he will take criticism because people will look at this and go, come on, man, 200 some odd million dollars in your career. What's a few million bucks to stay part of the big three? And I just am starting to get the sense that carries some weight, but not the weight that we think it should or could.
Yeah, it shouldn't carry any weight for any player. You ultimately have to make your own decision based on what you think's important. And if it comes down to respect, and if the Warriors offer him 20 and, Wiggins is making more and Draymond's making more, we know Steph is making more, and Klay's thinking, I don't want to be the 4th highest paid player. I don't want to make less than Andrew Wiggins. I mean, do you really fault him for that from an ego standpoint? I don't.
I don't fault him for anything.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't take any criticism from me.
Yeah.
You have to. He has said this now twice just in the last week. I want to spend time figuring out what I prioritize.
The mentals. Yeah.
Right. So what is going to make me feel good? And there's essentially 2 things. What's going to make you feel good? Staying with Steph or making the most money? I fault you for neither. You get to come to that decision. It just feels to me like if you had asked anybody that at any other point in his career, most people would have been like, stay with Steph. They're good. There is even financial value in wearing the same jersey for your entire career, right? You obviously love the water and the here and all. So there's all that other
Sure.
stuff. It just feels like there are some things that have happened this year that have set the table for Klay Thompson to prioritize the money and the respect, if you will,
Right.
rather than the branding and the big three of it all.
Yeah, one of those things is the reported offer of 2 years and $48 million that he turned down. So if that is the baseline of his rejection, 2 years and $48 million, and it's a sourced report. We don't know if it's completely factual, but it seems like it is something that happened, and that was reported to have happened back in November or December. And so he says no to that. And the team's going to come back now with more than that, considering they're
Wouldn't think.
right. So do they come back with that same offer? If they come back with an offer that is less than what was reported, well, that's a big middle finger to Klay Thompson. I would take that
not
as
necessarily.
disrespectful.
Not necessarily, because what if that's all the market will bear as well? I like
Right, but we think that the market will bear more than that. Bobby Marks, the
maybe.
expert from ESPN who joined us yesterday, seemed to indicate that the market will be more between 25 and 30
right,
per.
which 24 is obviously not that far off from that. So
Right,
it
right.
would not be crazy even for Bobby Marks' prediction if nobody goes over 24. That's possible. That's plausible.
If he signs elsewhere for 2 years and $48 million, then that would be a very telling development.
That would be interesting.
If he took less than $25 million a year to go elsewhere,
Well,
that to me would be
what if the Warriors aren't even offering that anymore?
right.
Like,
Well, and based on where they are with the second apron and all the rest of it, the luxury
but
tax.
they knew that at the beginning of the year. What they didn't know is how the season played out.
Right.
And I do think there is a healthy chance, and even though the Warriors have been very clear, they all said, we want Klay back. Like that was practiced, clearly. Mike Dunleavy, Steve Kerr, Joe Lacob, everybody,
Steph Curry.
Raymond Ritter,
Yeah.
they all sat down. Okay, we're going to handle the press tomorrow. What are we saying about Klay? Yeah, we're comfortable. We want Klay back. We've told him that. All right, that's fine. One thing in Klay's press conference that stood out to me was his consistent reminder to the press that he played 77 games. Didn't necessarily matter to Klay, or it wasn't the highlight of how he played. It was just that he played. That was value to him. After what I've been through, I played 77 games. So he's sitting there going, you offered me 2 and 48 at the beginning of the year, and then I went and did the darn thing. I played in almost all the games. And the Warriors might be sitting here going, right. And not all of them were up to snuff, particularly the last one.
Wow.
/ most important one. Now, Mike Dunleavy said that doesn't factor into any of this.
Yeah.
And I largely believe him. But that, to me, does set a table for some strife in negotiations, which Klay seems prouder of his season than maybe the external eyes do.
Yeah, and I could see why he would be prouder of that. He was 54th in the association in games played. Only 53 guys played more games than he did, and he played more games than any other player on the Golden State Warriors. Klay Thompson was 4th in the league in three-pointers made and 4th in the league in three-pointers attempted. But he made the 4th most threes. So you're talking about a guy who, even though 0 for 10 in the last game is on everyone's mind, he shot the ball fairly well.
That's why I still think he fits. Steve Kerr is out here going, we need more shooting.
They need more shooting.
And we need Klay. And I'm like, yeah, there's no way around that he is your second best shooter. He is your second best shooter.
He's your only other shooter. You only had 2 shooters.
Right.
You had Steph, you had Klay, and end of list.
I think that's a very important point for the Warriors this season. People look at them, and they have plenty of people who can shoot, but they don't have a lot of shooters. Those are different things in basketball. They got people who can knock down a three. They need three-point shooters.
Right.
And Klay is clearly one of, you're right, probably 2. Probably 2 on the roster who you're like, that's a pure three-point shooter. And so to move off of him would be, I think, counterproductive. The problem is yes, there's the money side of it, and that has to fit. I don't care what they pay him, but they do, and he does.